While I was on the phone, I wasn't paying attention, and my grandson cut his hand on some glass. My daughter-in-law, who never liked me much, slapped me hard and yelled at me to get out. I turned to my son for help, but he just looked at me with disgust. Even my grandson, whom I raised, cried and told me to leave. Thinking about all I've given them over the years, I held back my tears. I bit my lip and decided to leave. They didn't know about the $8 million from the house demolition that's already in my account. As soon as the call connected, before I could say anything, there was a crash. I turned around to see my 3-year-old grandson John had knocked a cup off the table. I quickly hung up and rushed over, but it was too late. John had already cut his hand on the broken glass and was bleeding, crying from the pain. I barely had time to pick him up before my son and daughter-in-law rushed into the room. My son checked John's hand and coldly asked me, "Mom, how are you watching him?" I stammered, "I was just on a call." But before I could finish, my daughter-in-law stepped up and slapped me hard. "What call? I don't care about your calls, old woman. A dog can watch a house, but you can't even watch a kid. What's the use of you?" Her slap shocked me, ringing my ears, and I stumbled, hitting my back on a chair before crashing to the floor. Pain shot through me, leaving me breathless with anger and disbelief as I looked at my son and daughter-in-law. Seeing me down, they feared I'd gotten hurt, and my daughter-in-law, on the verge of tears, called to my son, "Honey." Holding John, he glanced at me and reassured her, "Mom's used to farm work. She's tough, she won't get hurt." Then he told me, "Mom, get up already. Stop pretending. You're fine." Even with me on the floor, my son didn't think to help me up. I forced myself up, supporting myself on my elbow, slowly sitting up. My heart felt colder than the floor beneath me. This was my son, whom I cherished for 30 years, my daughter-in-law, whom I spoiled for years, and my grandson, always dear in my eyes. In this home, I'm not a mom, a mother-in-law, or a grandma, just an unpaid, overworked babysitter. My son scolded, "Is this how you talk to elders?" My daughter-in-law sneered, pinching my son, "See? Your mom resents me. She cut my bridal gifts by 10 grand, and now she's yelling at my family. Elder? What kind of elder are you? Real in-laws help and spend money. All you do is mooch. Leave already, go back to your place." John chimed in, "Bad grandma, go away. I don't want grandma, I want my other grandparents." For the sake of family peace, I'd always been low-key at home. But now my anger rose. I look after the kid and do all the housework. How's that freeloading? And this house, I bought it. Why should I leave? My daughter-in-law rolled her eyes. "So what if you bought it? Every son needs a house to marry. You even cut my dowry for it. Just my luck to have a mother-in-law like you. This house is mine. The deed's in my name. I can kick you out whenever I want. I told you nicely before, but now I'm saying it clearly, leave my house." She always accused me of cutting her dowry by 10 grand. When we discussed it, we agreed on 188,000, but I guess my son and his wife changed the story, and for peace, I swallowed my pride. I looked hopefully at my son, hoping he'd speak up, but he just looked at me with disgust, and then looked away, as if it wasn't his problem. My heart turned to ice. I pointed a shaky finger at them. "You ungrateful brats." My daughter-in-law, angered by my words, kicked me again and started dragging me toward the door, cursing me the whole time. Her kick was strong, making me gasp in pain. She'd only ever bad-mouthed me before, maybe showed me attitude, but this was a whole new low. I had endured her mood swings for my son's little family. I'd spent all my savings on their house. If I didn't bear it, where else could I go? But I never thought she'd actually turn violent today. I pushed her away, looked at my son's evasive eyes, and through clenched teeth said, "Fine, I'll go. I'm leaving now." My son, surprised, looked at me, then a flash of glee crossed his face. He finally came over to help me up. As soon as I steadied myself, he couldn't wait to say, "Mom, going back to the countryside is nice. Fresh air, neighbors to chat with. You can grow veggies and raise chickens, and bring us extra produce." "Ha, my dear son. I've not even left, and you've planned my future already." But why doesn't he think about how the old house in the countryside hasn't been lived in for years? It was falling apart back then. Now it's probably unlivable. I have no money and no income. I'd barely survive going back there. I looked at this familiar yet unfamiliar son coldly, recalling his innocent smile and reliance on me when he was young. I wanted to give it one last shot. I said seriously, Nolan, once I leave today, our mother-son bond is over. I won't see you as my son, and you won't have me as your mother. Don't regret it later. Before he could respond, my daughter-in-law intervened. What, trying to chicken out? If you had any backbone, you'd pack your stuff and leave. Pack it all. Don't come back pretending to look for something. My son looked at her, hesitated, then said to me, Mom, just go back. I'll visit you when I can. No breaking ties. You'll always be my mom. I didn't say anything else, just gave my son a hard glare, and went inside to pack my stuff. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my son and daughter-in-law exchange smiles, probably thinking that this freeloader finally decided to leave. My heart was already cold. Numb, I went on packing my things. But honestly, there wasn't much to pack. My husband has been gone for over 10 years, and during that time, I hadn't bought any new clothes, let alone things like skincare products. Looking at my simple room, and the few old clothes in the closet, I decided to leave them behind. I just got my papers, stuffed a couple of change of clothes into a bag and walked out. Seeing me, my daughter-in-law brought out a little bag, assuming I was just pretending to leave. Her face changed in an instant. I told you to clean up properly. Don't leave any junk in my house. Can't you understand human language? Are you planning to come back? Have some shame. Haven't I been clear enough? Who are you pretending for with that dead face? She then stormed into my room, and soon came out with the clothes I hadn't packed, shoved them into a plastic bag, and threw it at my feet. She pointed to the door. Take your stuff and get out. I don't want to see you again. And if you keep pestering me, I'll call the police. My son stood by without uttering a word, silently agreeing with his wife forcing me out. Feeling bitter, I picked up the bag at my feet and walked out. From now on, I'm done with Nolan. From today onwards, I have no son. After getting off the elevator, I couldn't stop the tears I'd held back. I finally realized my son, whom I raised, was discarding me. Despite the harsh words I spoke before, he was still my only child. Standing in the familiar neighborhood, watching people come and go. They all had homes to return to, but I didn't know where to go. As I was wondering what to do, a notification dinged on my phone. I checked it. It was a bank notification. 8 million. Instantly I felt reassured. The call I had received earlier was from my old village, saying the demolition compensation had been transferred, and the money would soon be in my account. Who would have thought my rundown houses and plots would bring in 8 million? The demolition had been talked about for over a decade, but never actually happened, just measuring and registration, and nothing more. Everyone thought it wouldn't happen, so they just went on with their lives. No one talked about how to spend the compensation anymore. Suddenly this good news came. I was so overwhelmed by the news that I didn't notice my grandson messing with the cold water cup. Now recollecting everything was too late. This little incident made me see my son and his family for who they really were. Feeling the bank card with 8 million in my bag, I threw the plastic bag with my old clothes into the trash and walked confidently toward the neighborhood gate. Just as I reached the entrance, the security guard Ken approached me. Auntie, where are you going? I felt bitter but instinctively wanted to protect my son's reputation. I'm going back to my hometown for a bit. Haven't been back in years. Ken was surprised. It's almost noon, and you're going alone? Didn't you say your house is too broken to live in? Can you make it back by tonight? His concern made my eyes tear up. I'd made dumplings for Ken a few times, and whenever he saw me, he'd jog over to say hi. Sometimes, he even helped me carry groceries to the elevator. Yet my own son, whom I had cared for, didn't care as much as a young security guard. Was my life worth even less? I couldn't say much, so I vaguely replied, just some urgent business. Ken didn't suspect anything and warmly offered, the bus station is far. Let me call a cab for you. It's quicker than the bus. Here, let me hold your bag. I waved him off. No need, you stay busy. I'll wait by the road. Ken wanted to say more, but I pointed to the booth, signaling that someone was looking for him. After reminding me a few times, he ran back. I sighed in relief. If Ken said more, I might have broken down in tears. I got in a taxi, and headed straight to the city's bustling commercial street, checking into a star hotel. I booked a room for a week, deciding to take this time to think about my next steps. Inside the room, with the door closed, I finally broke down in tears, lamenting my life of toil, my naive belief that my son's adulthood would ease my burdens, and mourning for the respect I never received despite my sacrifices. After crying, I wiped my tears, took a hot shower, and relaxed on the comfy bed. Looking at the beautifully decorated room, and remembering the $8 million in my account, a sense of relief washed over me. Years of hard work, and I finally got to rest. I decided to stop overthinking for now, and just enjoy myself. I ordered room service, indulged in dishes I wouldn't normally afford, and even got a bottle of wine. Eating the chef's exquisite cooking and sipping wine worth almost a month of my son's salary. Money sure feels good. After the meal, I took a relaxing bath. Despite dwelling on being abandoned by my son and his family, having that demolition payout meant no more unpaid nanny duties, and my future seemed a lot brighter. Money really does give you confidence. I took out my phone, planning to call my niece Linda. She is my sister's daughter, and the only family I have left besides my son. Before my son got married, I often had Linda bring her child over for meals. But after the wedding, whenever Linda visited, my daughter-in-law was hostile, making it hard for Linda to come around. It's been nearly a year since she last visited. When the call connected, Linda's surprised voice came through. "Auntie, how come you're calling me now? Is there something up?" I said, "Come see me at the Huiha Road Crown Hotel. I'm in room 701. I'll explain everything when you get here." In less than half an hour, Linda got here. She hooked her arm around mine, giving me a once-over before letting out a long breath. "Auntie, you scared me to death. You didn't explain over the phone. I thought something happened to you. Why are you at a hotel? Did something happen at home?" As soon as she asked, all the resentment from being kicked out by my son's family rushed back, and I couldn't hold back my tears. I couldn't speak for a while. Seeing this, Linda gently patted my shoulder and helped me to the couch. "Auntie, tell me what's going on." I choked up as I told her everything that happened today. Linda's face turned red with anger, and she said she wanted to go give those two ungrateful relatives a piece of her mind. I shook my head. Forget it. Yelling at them won't change anything. I just want to focus on the days ahead, as if I never had that son. Linda looked at my tear-swollen eyes, but didn't say more. She went to the bathroom and brought back a cool washcloth for my eyes. As I applied the washcloth, I asked, "How have you been lately? We haven't really talked these past few months. Every time I ask, you just say you're busy." "Busy with what?" Linda sighed. "Auntie, to be honest, I've been really busy. I got divorced. I was dealing with my ex-husband's drama, and didn't want you to worry. Good thing my daughter is with me now. It's just the two of us living together. Why don't you cancel the hotel and stay with me? The place is small, but it's still a home." I put down the washcloth and held Linda's hand. "Why didn't you tell me? I'm your family after all. I could have been there for you. Why did you come here alone? Where's Lucy?" Linda gave me a helpless look. "Auntie, it's not the weekend. Lucy is still at school. I'll explain everything when we get home." Then she started getting ready to help me pack. "Auntie, let's go and cancel the room, come home with me. Going back to Nolan's will just be more trouble. I may not earn a lot, but I can take care of you." Thinking of the ungrateful son who broke my heart, I nodded. "All right, I'll stay with you for a few days." Living with Linda for a few days, I finally understood what having hope felt like. Linda's very filial. The first day I got there, she introduced me to several women who dance in the plaza. Lucy also adored me, always sharing her snacks first. To the outside world, we seemed like a happy family. In these few days, my son didn't even bother to call, not even to ask where I went. Even though I tried to hide it, Linda noticed my unhappiness and suggested, "Auntie, let me show you our factory. It'll be a nice distraction. And if you miss John, we can visit him in a few days." After her divorce, Linda and a few friends opened a small processing plant. She'd mentioned before that most of her employees are stay-at-home women. I nodded. "Sure, I've been curious since you first mentioned it. I know a bit about it too. Grandpa taught me back in the day." We packed up and headed out. The factories in rented warehouses on the outskirts. They might look a bit rundown outside, but inside was something else. Watching the ladies of all ages chat comfortably as they worked, everyone greeted Linda with a smile. I asked Linda why she got into this business, since I remembered these crafts as just household staples, not really profitable. Linda explained, "Auntie, the workers here are mostly from the nearby villages. They're generally stay-at-home women, taking care of kids and in-laws, but their efforts often go unnoticed, and they aren't respected at home. I wanted to offer work they could do, so they could earn their own money and stand tall. My friend's family knew this craft, so we started it together. Now these products are really popular, and our factory has great reviews." Watching Linda's proud smile, I felt a bit moved. Back home, I talked to Linda about my relocation compensation. Linda's eyes widened. "Wow, Auntie, you've hit the jackpot." I playfully flicked her, "Silly girl, making fun of me now." Carefully I explained. "On the way back I thought a lot. I can't keep being so stubborn." I was really hurt these days, confused why I did so much for my son's family, and still got treated like this. Even John, whom I raised, seems to resent me. Seeing the women at the factory working hard for their lives, some even older than me. I'm only 52. There's still a long way ahead. I can't just give up like this. So I thought about investing $2 million in you guys. I want to join you." Linda refused. "Auntie, that's your retirement money. I can't take it. If you're bored, plant some flowers, shop, get a facial, or travel with a group. Our little factory didn't even need $1 million to start. Honestly, I don't even know when we'd earn that back." I insisted. "I believe in you guys. Take the money and build your business. That's the best way to repay me." Linda's eyes watered, and she nodded firmly. The next day, I transferred $2 million to another account planned for my son. Despite the pain he caused, he is still my child. I couldn't stay mad. He always wanted to buy a nicer school district house for his son, but didn't earn enough, leading to constant fights with his wife. Consider this $2 million the last thing I'll ever do for him. This time, I returned with Linda. I knocked on my son's door, and my daughter-in-law opened it. Seeing me, she acted like I was the plague, quickly closing the door partway, standing between me and the entry, glaring. "What are you doing here?" I didn't want to deal with her, so I asked, "Where's Nolan? I need him for something." My daughter-in-law, with a scowl, shot back. "Why are you looking for him? Changed your mind? Want to move back in?" "No way." Linda, clearly upset, shoved my daughter-in-law a bit. "Is that how you speak to your elders? No manners at all." The daughter-in-law, realizing what just happened, tried to hit Linda. I quickly pulled Linda back a step. I asked Linda to wait for me downstairs. I didn't want her caught up in my mess. Linda gave me a worried look but finally gave in and went down. Just then, someone from inside asked, "Who is it?" My daughter-in-law shot me a fierce look and replied, "Mom, it's no one, just someone who got the wrong door." It turns out, as soon as I left, they couldn't wait to bring in their family from the other side. No wonder even my grandson was pushing me out. As my daughter-in-law turned to shut the door, my son came back. He saw me and frowned. "Mom, why are you here? And with your cousin? Aren't you embarrassed enough?" In a sarcastic tone, the daughter-in-law added, "Your mom's sure something. Found someone to back her up, huh? Nolan, I'm telling you, there's no way I'll let your mom move back in." Remembering my reason for coming, I didn't want to argue with my daughter-in-law. I told my son, "Nolan, weren't you saying earlier that you wanted to buy?" Before I could finish, my daughter-in-law interrupted, scoffing, "Whatever you're buying, it's got nothing to do with us. We don't have money for you." My son pulled me towards the elevator. "Mom, just go. Didn't you move to the countryside? Why are you back? Did your cousin put you up to this to make everything a mess? She got divorced and now wants to mess up our family too? Mom, I'm begging you, just leave. If you come back, my wife will divorce me, and you don't want that, right?" I stood there looking at my son, who seemed so disgusted by me. All the sweet moments between mother and son shattered before my eyes. My heart was finally completely broken. When I got home, Linda cautiously looked at me. "And if you're upset, just let it out and cry." I said, relieved, "I'm not upset. I've really let it go this time. Thinking back, it's just how it is. I should have let go the day they kicked me out. I've realized I've done everything I should in my life. To them, I've done no wrong. I'm no longer fixated on whether they love or respect me. Whether they do or not doesn't matter. I need to treat myself well. I have money, lots of time, a healthy body, and no son or grandson dragging me down. It's great. It's my turn to be happy. Linda sighed. Aunt, you've really become wise. I teased her. Aunt's relying on you now, okay? Work hard, grow your business, so I can live it up. Linda promised over and over that she'd make sure I become a happy old lady. Over the next few days, whenever Linda had time, she'd take me shopping, out for beauty treatments, and to eat hot pot. Lucy would also hang around, catching me up on her kindergarten stories. I knew they were worried about me, and I kept their kindness to me close to heart. I ordered a bunch of plants online, planning to grow them on the balcony. Just when I was putting on a face mask, watering the newly bought roses, my phone rang. It was my son calling. He'd finally heard about the demolition payout. His excited voice came through. Mom, where have you been? Neighbors said you didn't go back. Are you trying to worry me sick? Where are you now? I'll come get you. John misses you. I ignored him. Trying to find me now? Not a chance. I'd given him plenty of chances, and he was the one who slammed the door shut on them. When I didn't reply, my son assumed I was moved, and pressed on. Mom, I heard your old house got an $8 million payout. I laughed. Yeah, but what does that have to do with you? My son could hardly contain his excitement. Mom, that's fantastic news. Tell me where you are, and I'll come get you. Let's celebrate. What a shameless person. When exactly did his face get that thick? I responded coldly. Like I said, it has nothing to do with you. I was going to give you $2 million last time I visited, but you wouldn't even let me in. I've already decided, our mother-son relationship is over. I don't have a son. Trying to win me over, my son said, Mom, look what you're saying. I'm your only son. How could our relationship just end? Who would you give your money to if not me and your grandson? I nearly laughed out of anger. I'd rather throw the money away, or donate it than give it to ungrateful people like you. Don't expect a penny from me. With that, I didn't want to waste any more words, and hung up the phone. That evening, when Linda got home, I mentioned what happened. I was worried those two ingrates might try something. Linda thought about it and said, Aunt, why don't you go on a trip for a few days? When you get back, we can talk to them calmly. The next day, before I could even leave, my son and daughter-in-law showed up at my door. As soon as they walked in, my son eagerly said, Mom, I've been thinking about you these past few days. My daughter-in-law didn't waste time either, pulling out a new piece of clothing from a bag, trying to put it on me. Mom, I specially went to the mall to buy you a new outfit. Try it on and see if it fits. These two, their audacity was unmatched. I moved aside in disgust. What cheap trash are you trying to shove on me, so filthy? My daughter-in-law's hand froze, her face turning sour. After all, I used to endure everything without complaint. But now, I've completely given up on these two ingrates, so I'll do as I please, give them as much attitude as I want. Seeing this, my son quickly gave his wife a look, then smiled apologetically at me. Mom, your daughter-in-law spent over an hour at the mall picking this out for you. Try it on. I rolled my eyes. I'm not lucky enough to have a daughter-in-law picking clothes for me. I don't even have a son anymore. So where's this daughter-in-law coming from? Their faces turned all shades of red, almost comical. The daughter-in-law, lowering her gaze, stepped up. Mom, I know I upset you a few days ago. I'm here today to apologize. Please forgive me. I scoffed. Oh, apologize? How exactly are you apologizing? The daughter-in-law gritted her teeth. Mom, I'll let you scold or hit me, as long as you forgive me. I exclaimed, amused. Oh, really? You said it. With those words, I swung my arm and slapped her right across the face. Bang! They both froze. My daughter-in-law was clutching her face, looking at me in disbelief. She probably couldn't believe that soft-spoken me actually slapped her. I waved my hand after the slap, feeling a wave of satisfaction. My daughter-in-law was furious, and tried to rush at me. My son grabbed her just in time. My son, trying to please, asked, Mom, are you calm now? Hearing this, my daughter-in-law had to hold back her anger, and put on her previous flattering look. Mom, you've hit me already. Can you forgive me now? I rubbed my hand slowly and said, Anger? I wasn't angry for long. My son was overjoyed. I told you my mom is so forgiving. We're a family. There's no holding grudges overnight in a family. I was speechless. I'm not angry because you two aren't worth it. I've got decades ahead of me. And getting mad at you isn't good for my health. It's not worth it. They both nodded eagerly. Yes, yes, since you're the elder, you won't stay mad at our younger generation. Thick-skinned, both of them. Acting all innocent with me. Seems like they have more up their sleeves. Sure enough, my son sat down next to me. Mom, you know John is starting school in a couple of years. We want to buy a better home in a good school district. We're short by over 100,000. What do you think? Finally, after this performance, they came out with it. It's all about money. I was unmoved. I don't have the money. And I'm not giving you any. You can just forget about it. My son was anxious and tried to persuade me. Mom, this money is for your grandson. When you're old, John will definitely take good care of you. What? My grandson taking care of me? That's quite a promise. I repeated, I don't have the money. And I'm not talking about sons or grandsons taking care of me. My son was persistent. Mom, stop joking. Didn't the compensation from the redevelopment just come in? I looked at him sarcastically. That money? I'm saving it for my retirement. Who knows if I'll need it for some illness or accident later. My daughter-in-law chimed in. Mom, you're saying that. But isn't your retirement income guaranteed by us? I almost laughed from anger again. You too? When you kicked me out, did you think about my retirement? Stop treating me like a fool. Get out now, or else I'll call the cops, and it'll be embarrassing for you, not me. I threw my daughter-in-law's words back at her. She wanted to react, but my son stopped her. He patted her hand and said to me, Mom, we were wrong before. Please forgive us. Anyway, you're not in the mood today. We'll come back in a couple of days. With that, they started heading out. Just outside, waiting for the elevator, my daughter-in-law couldn't hold back. That old hag dared to hit me. Why didn't you stand up for me? I got hit, and didn't even get the money. My son reassured her, hold your horses. If I stood up, Mom would have gotten even angrier. She might not give us money today, but just keep coming back. I am her real son. If we butter her up, she'll definitely give us the money. I heard every word they said from behind the door. My dear son, such calculating plans. But too bad, this time, your scheme will fail. I spent the first half of my life giving everything to this so-called son of mine. I spent nearly $1 million on his wedding home. What did I get in return? An ungrateful daughter-in-law and an unappreciative son. All I got was a slap. Thankfully, I realized what's right, and it's not too late. When Linda got home that night, I told her what happened today. Linda thought for a bit and said, Auntie, they're definitely going to come back for you. No matter what you say, it won't get through to them. Maybe you should go on a trip and deal with it when you get back. I shook my head and shared my thoughts. I want to buy my own place. I've lived most of my life without having my own home. If I live in my own place, no one can kick me out. With them being so shameless, avoiding them might work temporarily, but not forever. I don't owe them anything, so why not just live my life boldly? The next day, I quickly bought a fully furnished 130 square meter apartment. Here in my small city, the prices aren't high. Paying in full costs me less than $1.5 million. The community is very private and well secured. So even if my son finds out where I live, it can still prevent a lot of unwanted trouble. Although my son and daughter-in-law have been quiet for now, with $8 million from the redevelopment, they won't just give up. And sure enough, just a week after buying the apartment, my son showed up at my door again. This time, my son came over by himself. As soon as he walked in, he dropped to his knees and started wailing. Mom, look at my face. Lily scratched it all up. She's saying if we don't buy a house in the school district, she'll divorce me. Please, Mom, help me out. That's when I noticed the scratches on his face, which honestly looked kind of funny. Remembering the past, I straight up refused. Whether you get a divorce or not has nothing to do with me. You don't have to come all the way here to tell me. He kept on playing the sympathy card. Mom, your grandson is only 3. Can you really stand to see him grow up without a mom? Can you watch your son's family fall apart like this? I calmly replied, what do you need me for? Besides, when I'm old, you'll just kick me out anyway. Might as well get it over with now. He awkwardly shut up for a moment. Turns out he still knows how to feel ashamed. I continued, don't I my relocation money either. To be honest, I've already spent it all. You should just give up on that idea. He looked shocked, grabbing my hand. How did you spend it all? You didn't fall for a scam, did you? That was $8 million. We should report it to the police. I shook off his hand. Don't worry about it. Bottom line, I don't have any money left. Don't come back here again. Still persistent, he said. Mom, I know I've been a jerk before and hurt you. I promise I'll be a good son from now on, and never make you angry again. But right now I'm really stuck. If we don't buy the house, Lily will divorce me. You have to help. Looking at him, all desperate for money after being so awful to me before, felt like a huge slap in the face. I told him to leave. You should go. I really have no money. If she'll divorce you over not buying a house, what happens next? When she wants a fancy car or a big villa, and you can't provide, won't she just leave again? Better to end it now. Seeing my determination, he switched tactics. Mom, did you give all the money to Linda? I knew something was up with her letting you stay at her place. It's gotta be about your money. Don't let her fool you. Just then Linda walked in. My son saw Linda, and was absolutely furious. He yelled, Linda, I knew you didn't take my mom in just to be kind. You're filling her head with nonsense to get her money. Linda's face turned red with anger. Nolan, you're making stuff up. I've never tried to scam your aunt out of her money. You're defaming me. He pointed a finger and insulted Linda. You're trying to make up for what you didn't get from your divorce by scamming my mom now. I'm telling you it won't work. I couldn't take it anymore and shouted. No one is scamming me out of my money. If anyone is, it's you. You're always after my money. I've told you, I'm broke, now get lost. My son spat towards Linda in disgust, saying we'll see. I turned to Linda. See that? That's the kind of shameless kid I raised. Don't even bother talking with him. He's too far gone. Linda sighed. I can't understand how my cousin turned out like this. I laughed bitterly. I don't know either how my son turned into this. Seeing how vicious my son had become, I was more determined than ever to move away with Linda and her daughter. His desperation for money was making him irrational. At the end of the year, Linda's factory was quite busy, and I'd help out when I had free time. My son had been quiet for over a month. During that time, we moved and changed phone numbers. I figured we wouldn't see him for a while. But then my son and his wife pulled a stunt. Linda's handiwork business was thriving, and they even had 2 employees doing live streams, building a fan base and boosting online sales. While we were busy working, a video claiming a factory owner scammed an old lady out of $200,000 went viral. The ones who posted it? My ungrateful son and his wife. In the video they played the victims. They cried, saying I disappeared after the housing compensation money came through, and wasn't buying the promised school district house, leaving my grandson with nowhere to go. They claimed my niece tricked me into investing $200,000 to start her handicrafts business. And now, they've got me wrapped around their finger, spending my money on her, alienating me from my own son. These shameless 2 are masters at twisting the truth. I'm still alive, I've got a voice, and I'm not letting them defame Linda like this. The uproar stirred up the live stream, nearly crashing their channel. Emboldened, my son kept posting tearful videos, claiming my cold-hearted abandon, while declaring he'd still be the best son if I returned. He painted himself as a dream child. So many clueless folks joined in to bash Linda for swindling an old lady. A wave of orders got canceled. No one wanted to support a shady business owner. Some people even volunteered to help my son sue us, thinking they're crusading for the right thing. Sue us? Does he dare? He doesn't, but we do. After consulting a lawyer, Linda filed a lawsuit against my son for defamation, demanding compensation for the factory losses and a public apology. My son was stunned when he got the legal notice, knowing he'd lose this case. He wanted my help, but couldn't find me or my number. In court, I testified clearly why I gave Linda the $200,000, and even produced a shareholding investment agreement to prove that it was a shareholder investment, not a scam. My son tried to argue that my $200,000 investment wasn't with his consent. Everyone laughed at his ignorance. Whose money was it to begin with? Unsurprisingly, Linda's factory won the case. My son was ordered to apologize to Linda and compensate for the factory losses. The apology video from court quickly spread online, changing public opinion. Videos surfaced, showing I was kicked out after my daughter-in-law slapped me during MY's so-called disappearance. My son and daughter-in-law became outcasts. Although he deleted his initial videos, netizens kept digging and berating him. Videos and articles mocking them cropped up everywhere, and even their workplace got exposed by their enemies. Outraged former supporters rallied at their workplace to voice their anger. My son, a state-owned enterprise employee, was sent home to reflect. He might return once things calm down. My daughter-in-law, at a small struggling company, got laid off using this as an excuse. They constantly bickered at home. Even my daughter-in-law's mom left. But it doesn't concern me anymore. I've long run out of maternal sentiment for my thankless kid. In this lifetime, I want no ties with such an ungrateful person. Time flew by, and Linda's business was thriving more and more, growing multiple times its original size. The $200,000 I invested was recouped in less than 2 years. I didn't need all that cash, so most of it was donated to orphanages and nursing homes, helping the young and the elderly in need. In her free time, Linda joins me in traveling, helping me see the world. I've been so tied down by family and kids these past decades, I never had the chance. Right now, I've got the time and money, and I'm feeling healthy. I want to get out and explore the great sights of our country. While traveling, I've met a lot of interesting people and heard fascinating stories. My mood has become more upbeat, optimistic, and joyful. The next time I heard about my son, it was Linda who brought it up. After my daughter-in-law lost her job, she completely gave up and lounged around at home. My son's salary couldn't cover their living expenses, so he had to deliver food after work. His life wasn't as comfortable as it used to be. Times were tough. Later on, my daughter-in-law started complaining about my son earning too little. She got involved with a small-time contractor. They got caught by the contractor's wife and her friends, and they both got beaten up. In the end, my son got divorced and is raising the kid on his own. Linda told me all this while I was with some friends, on the road to another travel adventure. I put down my phone and enjoyed watching the scenery zip past the window. I was filled with anticipation. The end.